High above the city stood the statue of the Happy Prince. Covered in gold leaf, he shone brightly in the sun. His eyes, two sapphires, sparkled with a joy that seemed to radiate throughout the square. The townspeople, bustling below, admired their prince. They believed his smile reflected a life free from care. Oh, how wrong they were. One day, a tiny swallow fluttered through the town square, exhausted from a long journey south. It was getting colder, and he needed to reach warmer climates before winter truly set in. He noticed the statue of the Happy Prince and decided to rest at his feet. Perhaps he thought he could get some shut-eye before continuing his journey. He had no idea what awaited him. As the swallow closed his eyes, he felt a drop of water fall on his head. He looked up confused. It wasn't raining. He soon realized with a jolt that the water was coming from the Happy Prince's eyes. The sapphires were leaking tears. The swallow was shocked. Why was this seemingly happy statue crying? The Happy Prince, his golden face streaked with tears, spoke to the bird. "Little swallow," he said, his voice filled with sadness, "I am not happy at all." The swallow tilted his head in confusion. "But you are the Happy Prince," he chirped. "Everyone believes you live a life of joy." "That is what they believe," the statue sighed. "But from atop this pedestal, I see all the sadness in this city. I see the seamstress, her fingers bleeding as she works late into the night. I see the hungry children, their bellies empty, their eyes filled with despair." The swallow felt a pang of sympathy for the statue. He had always thought the Happy Prince was truly happy. Now he understood the prince's sorrow. "What can I do?" he asked, his small voice full of concern. "My little friend," the prince said, "I am covered in gold. My eyes are precious sapphires, and in my sword hilt rests a ruby as red as blood. Take these riches to those in need." The swallow had never heard such a request. To give away one's riches, it seemed impossible. And so began the swallow's new mission. He plucked a ruby from the prince's sword and flew it to the poor seamstress. He took a sapphire eye to the sick child and another to the starving artist. With each act of kindness, the swallow felt a warmth spread through him. He was no longer just a bird on his way south. He was a messenger of hope. As the days turned into weeks, the swallow continued to help the prince. He flew through the city, his tiny heart filled with purpose. He delivered the golden leaf, piece by piece, to those less fortunate. He brought warmth to the cold and food to the hungry. The townspeople rejoiced at their sudden good fortune. They had no idea where their blessings were coming from, but the Happy Prince and the little swallow knew they were making a difference. And in their shared mission, they found a friendship, a bond that transcended their differences. The winter grew colder and the swallow grew weaker. He knew he couldn't stay much longer. He had to fly south, but he couldn't bear the thought of leaving his friend. The Happy Prince, now stripped of his riches, was no longer shiny and bright. He was dull and grey, but to the swallow he had never looked so beautiful. "You must go, little friend," the prince said, his voice barely a whisper. "Winter is here, and you will perish in the cold." But the swallow refused. He nestled close to the prince's cheek, determined to stay by his side. He had found something far more precious than sunshine. He had found love and friendship in the most unexpected of places. As the sun rose one cold winter morning, the townspeople found the statue of the Happy Prince. He was no longer covered in gold. He was just a plain lead statue, and at his feet lay a tiny swallow frozen solid.